So yeah, throughout the treatment, just want you to just relax your mind, breathe into your belly, and having what I call a non-judgmental frame of mind. If anything comes up, any emotions or anything, just let them out.
Okay.
Sorry if my hands are a little bit cold. Your neck is really tight as well.
Can the head, like you're talking about the feet, can make things easier to release going up the body? Is it the same thing for the head going down, or not so much?
Well, relaxing the head first. I'll tell you a story. So years ago, I used to always do the head at the end of my treatments and just relax the person. But I remember working on this one guy that was so ticklish, like I could hardly touch him without him just jumping anywhere on his body. And then I did his head massage on him, and he actually started to finally relax, and I could actually go into his body. So then I realized that how important it is to actually start with a head massage, in which case then the person's mind starts to relax. It's kind of like the brain wavelengths. You get into those deeper meditative brain wavelengths with a head massage, and that enables the person to come out of like their I call it like the washing machine of the mind, where the thoughts are just kind of going over, and they can start to be tuned into their own body and their own breath, because the breath is such an important thing of Raynor massage because it's all about like that person going deep inside them and like taking deep breaths and just letting go.
Okay.
Man, you are so tight here in your jaw. So it's kind of like for the person receiving the massage, it's an inward journey. It's kind of like going in on a subtle body level, like a mental, emotional, almost a spiritual level too, because you're sort of settling into the body and, just kind of being at peace with yourself, but without all this kind of like this tension. It's like when you think about what is tension, it's kind of like, it's like a subtle energy that's causing, and a lot of people, well, it's hard, it's physical. Well, you could look at, I always use that analogy of air in a tire. Tires become hard but it's filled with subtle energy, like a gas, So when people ask me, well, what is tension? It's like, well, there's some sort of subtle energy that's there, and we sometimes might call that stress. We might call that different things. But it exists on both a mental and an emotional level as well as physical. So that's kind of what we're trying to get out of your body. It's like everything that's causing all this, and that's why the breath is so important. Because through deep breathing, that's what I call the release mechanism. It's going to let that stuff go. But, crying, screaming, whatever, they all add, depending upon what energies are. And I use that word energy pretty lightly because it's basically could refer to a number of different things, but certainly emotions and, what's commonly called stress. When you look at that word stress, it's kind of like, well, what is that? A lot of these words people don't really analyze deep enough.
I guess it's just like discomfort, right? Or the being pushed when you don't really want to be pushed, and then kind of.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of things, really, isn't it? I mean, it can be different things to different people in different circumstances, but
pain.
Yeah. tiredness, having to do things when you're tired, or could be the stress of, almost being in a car accident, or it could be,
Gravity pushing you down.
yeah, kids screaming, your boss, it could be
Being in the embodied condition.
being in this world. It's a great spiritual teacher once said this place is not for gentlemen. Whoa, it's so tight in there. So, my goal as a Raynor therapist is to find and get rid of this tension in a partnership model with you, And your job is to just breathe into it, let it go, not judge it because you're not it. A lot of people get so caught up, they don't understand who they are. And they think they are their tension, or they are their... Sometimes people can, feel like a victim, and they hold on to that, Classic example, I remember a friend of mine and his partner, a nice lady, but she was a nurse in Australia, and she was out on workers' compensation, which is kind of like you get paid when you're not working because of her bad back. And she's like, well, don't fix my back, because me being a victim, I get benefit from it,
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But other people get, other benefits where people feel sorry for them, or, you know what I mean? So all of that, a person has to go, that's not me. I can let that go, we all have our, like, poor me kind of stories, and, but all of it needs to just go, I am not that. I'm a dynamic spiritual being moving through time, heading towards death, as you and I had talked about. Rock, for those that don't know now, he's working at a director of volunteer services at a hospice, so constantly dealing with people leaving their bodies. And it's been a fascinating journey for you, I bet, being there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's really an interesting sensation when you're doing that lower down like that. It's, I guess, just everything is in my body is just kind of sensitive to just because of the tension everywhere.
Yeah, it's like what I call extreme levels of tension. And I said this to you in Hawaii years ago, like, you got a strong constitution, but you misuse it. Or you, I don't know about misusing it. You're using it obviously for good and stuff. Like, so I wouldn't, maybe misuse isn't the right word, but you push it to its extreme, you push it to its limit, like somebody with a good truck that runs the engine. You might be pulling some good stuff, but you reckon you're... But as you say, it's hard to find good treatment too,
Absolutely.
I always remember the story of one person saying to me, everything hurt except the ears, and I said, oh, I haven't done them yet. But what I find interesting is ears are cartilage. They're not, so for people that think that massage is all about muscles and stuff, rather than the energetic side of things, it's like, why do ears hurt, when they're cartilage, not muscle? And it's because they still have a, what we could call the chi flow through them, or the lack of chi flow sometimes, the chi blockages. And that, to me, is what, like, Asian massage is pretty much shiatsu, tuina, Thai massage. All the great traditions are actually more about the flow of the life energy through the body than they are about the muscles.
How about that? I heard a talk recently, and there was talk of, and I never really thought of it in this way or heard it this way, but how I think there's 5 different airs in the body. Is that right? 5?
Yeah, they're like in Ayurvedic medicine, the
So
Akana, yeah.
And us as a spiritual being, we're resting in those 5 airs, and then that the air is actually, like, I guess, transporting the influence of us as the spiritual living being to the other, to all the parts of the body, and it's going, I guess, through the channels, right? Mm-hmm. which I never thought of it that way. Like that there's actually air, like the air is actually like kind of moving it. The spiritual influence.
Yeah, it's fascinating, like looking at the deeper understandings of traditional Vedic culture and Chinese culture and things like that about the understanding of the embodiment of the soul and the subtle. There's a layer between the soul layer and the physical layer, which is like the subtle body, and where we hold on to emotions and we hold on to things and stuff like that, and that actually creates tension when we hold on to shit. So some people ask, because what I do when I work on you and then I flick off, I'm like picking up, it's like a vacuum. I'm picking up the energy and then I'm getting rid of it, And it's, again.
Can you actually feel it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think the art of being a good therapist is when you can actually feel it, You're not just going through the motions, but learning to feel the subtlety of chi. And when I first started, a lot of people go, oh, you got a gift or something, but I didn't have this when I first started. I had to learn it. I had to learn. It's like seeing in the dark and using your perception as a flashlight, and that's kind of how a lot of Asian cultures, the massage was done by blind people because they had to learn to see in the dark about, chi, not that they all do, but that's the ability. Like I often massage people with my eyes closed. So I always say I can see better, unless I'm near their eyes or something. I make sure I'm not, or their genitals or something. But in general, like right now, I'm massaging with my eyes closed, and then it's like how like there's radar and stuff like that. Like radar sends out these certain waves and can detect drones or aircraft or something. Well, it's similar to that, or sonar. There's these different things that certain like animals have, like dolphins and things, where they send out sound waves and things. But for me, it's just an ability. I had to develop that ability to perceive into the subtle realms. Because, I know, I've talked about this. I was university educated, and I realized, studying philosophy and psychology and government and political economics, and I was what I call a head tripper. I thought a lot, and when I had to learn shiatsu and massage and like they're talking about chi and stuff, I'm like, fuck, I can't feel any of this shit. I don't even know, I was really insensitive to it. But gradually I developed it, and I was like, okay, I got to come out of my mind and into my fingers and into perception. So it's like my fingers become like, they can see, they feel, they see. It's just an ability to go into the, because certainly other animals and things can see and hear different things that we can't hear. Dogs can hear sounds, but there's an ability that you can develop, and it's done through a multitude of different ways. I mean, like you and I practice mantra meditation together, and the power of certain sacred sounds and things like that. Sound waves can be very, very powerful. But keeping your consciousness clear as well. So no, not taking drugs and alcohol and all that sort of stuff can help.
Oh, in terms of
perception
of the energetic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because basically the most important tool, you got two tools. One is your ability to, I'm going to use my strength or my whatever to influence this. But if you don't have perception, then your strength's not going to matter, because you could actually misuse that strength to do something stupid, like hurt a person in a way, So perception is more important than strength or ability, techniques even, because unless you have the perception to know where is the blockage, you don't know which technique to use, nor do you know what level of pressure to use.
One thing I've always liked when you were massaging me in the past is like your kind of intuition of not just of kind of being able to read the larger scope, like what maybe is going on with the person, like that you can sense, like, oh, this person's experiencing depression or sadness or anger, and you can, like, maybe, I mean, sometimes when you're a massage, you're of course you have those videos, and you've talked about it, but when people release those kind of things and it's overt, like they can hear it, you can hear it, and you can.
Yeah.
But sometimes it seems like you're able to see it before
Yeah.
it manifests.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely. I can see the energy that's trapped in that person. And that's why I'm not scared of like a person crying or a person screaming, because it's better out than in. It's like that sadness is in them. And when they cry, after they cry, they actually feel like they've let go of that sadness. So I'm not scared of people crying, because I'm like, that's a great release. It's like letting that go out of their body, and it comes out through the tears and which is interesting, because in, Chinese medicine, we could look at the different elements, and in Ayurveda. And water is the, emotional element. Air is like thoughts and things. But, even with what they call the vata element, air and ether, when we think about what does ether mean according to Ayurveda, it's the subtle energy in which air is actually existing. So they, traditional Ayurvedic medicine goes into the layers of the human being, and I was like, when I learned all this, because I did my diploma in Ayurvedic medicine with Dr. David Frawley from the American Institute of Vedic Studies, probably almost 30 years ago now. And I was like, okay, and plus, learning different Vedic philosophies and Chinese medical philosophies and things. And it's like, okay, what are these subtle layers of the human being, and how can I perceive them, So it's kind of like I was looking, and then I'm going, oh, what's that I sense, And instead of, a lot of people, that skeptical part of their mind rules out, where they're like, I don't know anything. I can't see that kind of thing, and nobody else can, and And I was like, no, I'm just going to keep looking and practicing and trying to feel and learning through, like, feeling what's going on with people. And then getting a lot of massage, and you could get, the best massages I've ever gotten have always been from people with good sense of perception. And I'm like, wow, you bring an awareness into your fingers of what you're doing. You're not just like a rote learning or mechanical thing, and you're not insensitive. You're not too light, not too heavy. But very effective, And I was like, that's what I want to develop, And so yeah, a lot of my learning really has been from the Asian side of things. Great respect to Japanese teachers and Chinese, and even I learned a lot from Thai massage, and just their philosophies of the subtle body. And then I started to look at the differences between the different philosophies. Like the Thais have their Sen lines and things, which were energetic lines, and then Chinese have their meridians that the Japanese have adopted. But I had a Japanese guy work for me who had trained at the Tokyo, one of the best shiatsu places in Tokyo. I forgot the name. But he was talking to me about hidden meridians and things like that. And I was like, oh, wow, show me that, And I trained with some guys from in Sydney years ago that worked at the Tokyo School of the Blind. And Yuichiro Ogawa, he's one of my friends now. He taught me a lot just about their ability that a lot of Japanese people have to perceive chi and ki. And even like when you look at it, the culture, like when they say, how are you? It's genki desu ka, and that's, how is your chi today?
really?
Yeah. Ki, genki, Genki is one way to write it. And that's your health. Tenki is the weather, which is the chi of the weather. You know what I mean? So, and what I noticed, he had an amazing perception in his hands. And I was like, dude, you can feel shit, And it's cultural to a certain extent. Not all Japanese people. I've had massage from Japanese people who don't. But obviously that was one of the most elite schools. And he was over in Australia working at the Hilton Hotel. And, I was teaching him English, and he was teaching, but I was like, damn, you got a good ability to perceive. And I'm like, I want that, And so it's sort of like you can, and I realized what was holding me back, and part of it was, like I was talking about, my mental aspect, thinking that I could understand things mentally because of my university education and things like that. And I realized that it's perception's different than intellectual understanding. And so I had to kind of calm down that whole intellectual thing. I'm just going to get you to open your jaw a little bit. That's it. Kind of like, we were talking, you were involved in politics and stuff in Hawaii, and then, I was working on you and you were stressed out, and I was like, you got to get into your heart. It was the same with me. I was involved not with so much, I did study government and political economy and stuff, and I have been involved in politics in Australia, but it was the same, coming into your heart, and what your heart is where your soul is, and it's also where perception comes from, empathy and that kind of thing. But the word empathy is obviously, and I know you've had a lot of things to think about empathy when you're dealing with loved ones of people passing away and bereavement and stuff. But yeah, it's more than just the mental, as you're saying goodbye to people that are leaving this world and things. It's that perception of spirit, and that ability then, like what aloha, namaste mean. Like aloha is more than just hello. It's I greet the spirit in you, but also kind of love. That connection between, when you think about what does the word love mean, you've got the different Greek words, agape and philos and eros, but philos being like brotherly love, and could be obviously sisterly or whatever as well, soul to soul, individual souls. And that's kind of like also where I think it's very important to come from with massage, is that aloha spirit, or the namaste, the philos aspect of love, and then what is that? It's just so many people misuse the word love. It just